I know it's January. Everybody's thinking, what do I want my life to be like? But I want you to think about your soul's health. Like, what do you want that to be like? What do you want your life with God to be like? Not in some rigid, like mechanical way, but like, what do you want it to feel like? What do you want it to sound like? What do you want it to smell like? What do you want your pace of life, for example, to feel like? Do you want it to be the same as it was in 2025?
Welcome back to the Generous Girl podcast. In January of 2026, we are kicking off season 4 already. And I am so happy to have a guest that we had last year in the studio named Mindy Caliguire. And Mindy's all about taking care of one's soul. And you're going to love this conversation. I think it's going to be the perfect way to start your new year. We're so happy you're here. So hang on. You're going to meet Mindy in just a second. Well, this time we're kicking off the new year with one of my favorite people in Boulder, Colorado, named Mindy Caliguire. And Mindy was on the podcast last year because she has such a unique focus of focusing on the soul, and her company, Soul Care, soulcare.com. And what better way to start January of 2026 with taking time to think about what's really important. And that's why she's here today. So welcome, Mindy.
Thanks, Kim. I'm so delighted to be with you again. Really.
It is so great to have you here. And for those who haven't heard the prior podcast, they can go back to January of 2025 and hear our conversation then. But now, the year has passed and there have been a lot of learnings for you and your coworkers and your company as you've been building Soul Care. So I thought that would be fun to talk about. We had, big changes with, for example, how many nonprofits were affected with USAID and how that trickled into your orbit and world. Right. Yeah. We had your own challenges with how do you keep an organization like this, not just going, but thriving and financially, meeting deadlines, all the things that come when you start a new company, which I'm so proud of you for all that you've done. Because I know this has been such a passion of yours for a long time. So why don't we catch up the listener just at a high level, explain how you got into this space of leading this company. We'll start there.
Yeah. It's as you know, it's a fun and long story with roots, and I won't go into all the details. Since we talked last, I have a new book that's been out. Well, I guess it was barely out when we talked.
Yes.
That goes into more of the details, but just at a high level by way of review, my husband and I were in a very entrepreneurial startup environment for a ministry in Boston, Massachusetts back in the 90s. And during that time, I'm a pretty hard driving kind of, I would say, jet fuel drinker type person by nature, by my sort of family of origin and schooling and all that other stuff. And so I just sort of unthinkingly brought all of that drive into how I was doing adult life and ministry in particular, and had a very severe implosion of my soul is the best way to describe it. I had neurological symptoms, was hospitalized a few times. It was very scary at the time because I didn't understand what was happening. But over time, I would say I became aware of a different way of life, a different way of ordering my life, a deep life with God that wasn't rigid, but was persistent and anchoring in real time, not just concepts about God, but like real time connection. So anyway, that has become my way of life these now many, many decades later. And by living that way, I feel like doors kept opening to me to go to different organizations, bring this message or this vision to some pretty large organizations that you and I have been involved with in several of these in different ways. And so that's just been a burden that I've had for a long time of how do people, especially people of a deep faith in God, how do they actually live this life, even though they might be sacrificially serving so that other people could find that life, right? So that's often who I'm talking to as leaders and ministry leaders. So
like putting on your own oxygen mask first before helping others.
I know, but you know what, Kim? I've stopped using that. Like, what has that ever happened? No one ever needs it. No one ever does it. It's like, it's become like it was a metaphor But like,
Interesting.
I think I'm finding it's like, how do I give people metaphor for how this works in our lives now?
Right.
And I'm still experimenting with that in some ways. And it might be fun. We can talk through some of those things because we're used to hearing that and going like, oh yeah, of course. But then no one ever does it. First of all, no one ever needs to on an airplane. I mean, if that thing's going down, those masks don't matter. I mean, how often have we said our final, like, hey, God, I'm good to go. If it's my time, I'm good, and then the plane lands and you're fine. But there's no oxygen masks in most of those situations. Have you ever met anyone after all the air travel that you and I have both done all over the world? Never one.
I think the focus, just takes me back to having little kids. Your inclination is like, I got to take care of the little kids first. And then you can step back in the bigger picture.
Oh, it's totally the correct metaphor. I just want to find something that's more like visceral that we actually feel. Anyway, so actually here I did finally think of we'll get to it later. I do have a current one. So that has been for many, many years. And then when the pandemic came, I began thinking maybe it was time to leave the vocational commitments I'd made elsewhere at Glue, at Willow, lots of different places that I loved, teams I loved, people I loved, visions I loved. But I knew that this burden now so many more people were realizing at scale, we're exhausted. We're dirt tired. We're burnt out. What do we do? And more people were coming to me saying, would you work with my team? Would you meet with our board of directors? Would you, whatever, which I love doing. And I finally stepped away from my very comfortable life at this organization that I dearly love because I felt compelled that it was time. It was time to figure out what did soul care need to become, because I purchased the URL for that like a very long time ago. And so that's what over the last 5 years I've been iterating around. And then these fires happened, now 3 years ago, and our whole community was deeply impacted. And I got kind of thrown off course a little bit there. And so it's taken a minute to kind of stand back up, look around and go, all right, what kind of organization do I want to lead? How do I want this to feel for our team, for our clients, for how much can we give away as much as possible? And yet, how do I keep the lights on and keep a team appropriately compensated for great work? Like it's been an entrepreneurial journey that especially, this last year has been actually quite redemptive. It started hard. When we had recorded that podcast, I was probably in a more like sunshine and rainbows kind of place. And by the time I made it through year end, I had no idea. I lost a couple, pretty big clients very abruptly at the end of the year, unforeseen. And it was like, oh my goodness, don't ever allow yourself to be that dependent on any one client. Like these are good leadership lessons. Anybody listening knows what this is like, but I still got a little blindsided by it. And so started the year with a much more conservative, like, God, I need that 2 to 3 month buffer of operating expenses. Runway. And we've got to build that up. And I need to know this one big, commitment is going to hit in November of next year. I want to hit that with cash. And so it's just, anyway, the Lord made a way. It was a great year, but man. So anyway, I'm answering more questions than you asked. You asked how I got into this. Soul care became my own way of life. It became a message I increasingly had opportunity to bring to others, especially leaders. Exactly. At the intersection of leadership and spiritual formation. And then is now an organization that I am full-time leading and just loving the moment that we're in. Yeah, it's been a really sweet season.
Well, the value that you're providing, I don't know of another group that's doing what you're doing. And I know you have flown all over the country a million times and, helped other organizations, but now it sounds like you've been in your 101 stage. Now you've moved into like 2.0, soul care. And now you're more clear on your own mission, vision, what you all stand for. And then people are coming to you because now you have a number of products and you know how it is. You're always looking at those products. Are these the best ones that we should keep out there? These didn't do so well, so we're going to get rid of those and we're going to focus on this. And I feel like in doing that, we also just kind of refine our lane that God wants us in. It's easy to have a lot of spokes on that lane and not be clear of this is what we're called to do. This is what they're called to do. This is what they're called to do. But I think it's really fun to watch how this, I can't believe it's already been 5 years, but how you have, God provided this unbelievable property for you in that Boulder area. And then leaders have been coming to just take time for their souls. And now just figuring out, from the admin leader side of, you're a CEO. How do you run this company? How do you still take care of your own soul and not, be stressed as you're showing an example to others? So I'm glad that we're talking, a year later with all the learnings, because that's what I want to unpack today. And then I want to unpack how, because I know you have a lot of offerings on your website. So for anyone listening, soulcare.com, you can go there and you're going to find a ton of free resources and things that will help you journal or pray, or they have like spiritual directors and different coaches you can get connected with. But she has a starting point of an assessment. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that's, I think, really good for anybody this month of January to take.
Yeah. It is a good thing for you to take. And there's a great little resource you'll get with whatever your result is once you've taken and answered the questions. It only takes less than 5 minutes to do the assessment, and you can get to it at our website. But, Kim, what I've always found with anyone is that we sort of only learn or try something new when we understand what's at stake. And for many of us, we've never really considered the health of our soul as even a category, especially for people who are in more of a Christian mindset. The only times they would talk about the soul is sort of with reference to its eternal destiny. Souls are saved or unsaved, they're lost or found. But once you're in a relationship with God, we don't really talk about the soul anymore. I think this is changing, but especially many years ago. And so it's kind of a new category for people to create space for in their head of, am I caring for my soul? Everybody, it's in January, guys. You've got probably a workout plan. You've got a nutrition plan. You've got however long it lasts plan. Right. Yeah. What's your fasting rhythm? All that stuff. And that's good. You should have a financial plan. Basically anything in our life that matters, we want to organize around a vision of the future in that area of our life. But for many of us, we've never thought about the soul as the thing that's actually holding all the other dimensions of the self together. And so as it goes with your soul, so it goes with your entire life. And that's why it's of vital importance to pause, yes, at the beginning of this year, think about your relationships, your finances, your physical health, all those things, but comprehensively, how is your soul? And so when we take that assessment, you'll get one of three results. You'll be in either the healing, the strengthening, or the flourishing categories, which are still broad. They're still broad categories. And over time, we're doing more research on what are we learning from all this anonymous, data, but smart people that know how to look at these things can help us know how we can better help somebody. Because of course we all know it's I have to know where I'm at in order to know what kind of steps to take
and what you
in the
need.
future.
Right.
Yeah. So I would encourage everybody to take that. We've done it for organizations, use this to get a read on how is their team, how is their staff. Churches, different nonprofits have used it. Businesses are using it if they have enough of a faith-aligned construct for their team. And it really does get at not only the well-being of your soul sort of in general, but in the context of your work, because that's kind of where rubber meets the road for many of us. Like you said, for me, the beginning of last year was a big, like, I am feeling like I'm in a free fall emotionally, spiritually. I'm grabbing like, God, where are you in this? This wasn't what I expected. This isn't how I thought this was going to go down. Like, what do I do with this disappointment, with this fear, all that stuff? And all of my practices for caring for the soul are what held me and kept me able to stay alive to God in the midst of some hard decisions. I mean, hard, painful, sad. Like, I mean, the care of the soul doesn't mean your life is forever easy by any stretch.
Right.
That's not what we're signing up for.
Share some practical ways of how you did that.
Yeah. I have at least 3, maybe 4 that I can add. One is those middle of the night when you're just like waking up with these doomsday scenarios and everything that can go wrong, and you're just spiraling with all the terrible, awful, no good, very bad day things. For me to, once I recognize that I'm in one of those, to arrest that and bring it to a structured prayer. I kind of almost need not like a free form. I'm kind of praying because then I'm distracted in 30, not even like 3 nanoseconds and no more praying, even if that's really what I wanted to do. I need like a structure to pray through in the middle of the night. And so I have like 3 that I go to on a regular basis, no rhyme or reason of which. One would be just the Lord's Prayer that I use because I know it, right? And I can go line by line, and I don't just use the verbatim Jesus's words. It's like I jump off from that concept and then apply it to what's current. But then it pulls me back to, okay, what's the next phrase? How am I praying about, give me this day my daily bread? Well, what does that look like for me laying in this bed in Arvada, Colorado today? With the bank balance being what it is, with this, all those things. What does that prayer mean to me to speak to God today? So that's one example. The other one I often work through in a same structured way is actually the 23rd Psalm. When I first started praying through that one in the middle of the night, somebody else had suggested that I do it. And I was like, well, it sounds like a decent enough idea. So I thought I'd give it a try. I was like, but I haven't memorized the 23rd Psalm. Well, actually, almost everyone listening, because so many of these phrases are part of popular culture. I mean, even beyond the church, these are phrases that many of us know. And I just hadn't quite committed to the sequencing. I hadn't quite gotten to it, but it didn't take much. And I would have my phone or, open to that scripture or something in the middle of the night. And to go through and be asking for God to prepare that table in the presence of enemies. And,
and to know you have a shepherd, that you're just like a sheep.
Yes.
Do you realize someone challenged me when we had our first child about having her memorize the 23rd Psalm? So I just thought every time we do a little bath, I'll just teach her a new phrase. And you have a grandchild now. She learned that thing in days. I mean, it was done. She'd just be like, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And it makes me lie down in green pastures. I love brains. That. I know. And you're right. It's in there for most of us.
It is. It is in there. And all you need to do is like dental floss to like tie it together, not much, and it'll stick. Anyway, so that's one whole category, is the middle of the night prayers. A second one practice for me is silent prayer. And to sit with the Lord, that has different names: contemplative prayer, centering prayer. I just call it silent prayer. And to just sit on my couch with my coffee, my Bible, my journal, but for that 20 minutes, no words. I set a timer. I ask God, like, what's my biggest need right now? And it could be for wholeness or healing or grace or faith or whatever it is. And I just use that word to pull my attention back to stillness. And, there are days when you just don't even know how to pray because it feels so achy and I don't see a way out. I don't know how to pray. So that was the second thing, silent prayer, super, super helpful to me. And I'm always writing in my journal. Like I have to know like what's banging around in my head. What actually am I afraid of? What am I embarrassed of? Like, am I putting myself out there with this whole company idea and I'm out over my skis and it's kind of a joke? Like all those terrible things that you think, I need to write them out and bring them to God and say, is this true? Am I missing something? Because you have to have a place where you can just bring the gut level, honest thing before God and to yourself. Yeah.
And to see his answers when you're in that moment of, I don't know how this is ever going to work out. And you can go back and look at other times when you didn't think it was going to work out. And sure enough, he was faithful and he worked it out. And that gives me confidence going forward.
That's the praise report I have here a year on, to just say unbelievable things have happened. Unbelievable things that only God could do.
That makes me so happy. Oh, that is really neat. Well, I know one of the programs that I don't believe you had last year at this time, but is it Lead Well Rhythms?
Lead Well Rhythms, yeah.
Talk about that.
We had been piloting it a little bit with C12 and a couple other places, trying to say the problem we're trying to solve is how do we actually intersect the life of a leader who is convinced they want to live from a healthy soul. I'm not trying to persuade them by the time they're a Lead Well Rhythms client. They already want to live this way, but they're like many of us, they're like, yeah, that's what I want, but it just always evaporates from my calendar or it evaporates from my schedule or 3 months go by and I never did the thing I thought I was going to do. That's just human life. And especially in our highly distracted world right now. So we went back and said, what is the smallest way we can help people? What's the least we can do to bring the help that people need at the time and way? And that's how we ended up thinking about rhythms instead of content. Content's helpful, but there's no lack of content in our world. What most people need is just the ever slightest bit of help in keeping to the rhythms that they already want to do. And so Lead Well Rhythms includes some daily rhythms like the ones I've talked about, but that's just sort of out there. They can do whatever they want. But our support comes in on weekly rhythms, monthly rhythms, quarterly rhythms, and an annual retreat rhythm. And when we pull all that together, that's what we're making a way for organizations to bring their teams through. There's a couple cohorts with some larger organizations that are almost ready to start, I think by the beginning of
wonderful.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. And there's, of course, we're doing sort of a soft launch in the fall of 25. And then right now is when there will be way more focus on it for us as an organization. But we just think people want this life with God. They don't, it's not like they need to be persuaded. It's so you're left going, all right, then what's the help that we can bring?
Absolutely.
And so the weekly rhythm is the weekly check-in that I think you may have seen. We have an email that goes out every Friday morning, but there's a adjusted one that goes out to the Lead Well community. That's just about a 15-minute devotional, basically. Just pressing you back into your own time with God with a focus on a scripture, some reflective questions, a breath prayer. Very simple, but people love them. And then a monthly virtual retreat that people can join from anywhere, or if they can't make it, because nobody can make it every time, they get the retreat guide and can take 2 hours on their own time, whenever works for them. But we like the community edge that it's you're gathering with other leaders. They might be in your same organization, might be in a different organization, but there's a life-giving version of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, I know we're going to
Exactly.
talk
I was
about it,
thinking
and I'm
that.
going to come
Mm-hmm.
back. Yeah, I'm going to come back and have a chance to hear what others experienced and how put words around what I experienced. So that's the monthly cadence. And then the quarterly is where our guides come in, where the team of spiritual directors and coaches and people can choose who they want to meet with. But it includes 4 sessions with
Wow.
one of the folks on our team. And so people could just be like, I'm in an intense season, I need 4 sessions in February. That's
Okay,
fine.
they can use it that
schedule
whole
them
year.
where they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or quarterly is sort of just the cadence that is about as often as a lot of leaders, unless they're in a crisis of some kind. That's about what they can stick to. And then annually is a day, like just a day retreat, but we give you a guide and some little, I used to call it a solitude survival kit, but like, how do you just take a day to be with God, come up with your plan? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little reset, see where you're at. So anyway, that's our Lead Well Rhythms. We're super excited about it. Yeah.
That's really wonderful, Mindy, because it's like, I think you said the people that are attracted to your organization already do care about their soul. And so you're not trying to sell them on any of that. You're just trying to provide these like little, and not even guardrails, but you're trying to help them along the journey. And here, it's almost like a pilgrim, and you're given, here's a little water, and here's, you might need this, you might need to rest right here. Okay,
well, here's a metaphor that just came to mind that you'll be very familiar with, and you know more about it than I do. The hikes in Switzerland where you have the handle, like the wire that you can hang on to while
the mountain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like that. It's like, it's just a little something to hang on to to get you where you probably actually don't need it, but you're most likely going to hang on.
You're going to be glad that you had
it. Exactly.
Oh, that's great. So what about people do you have people that come to you as a couple, or is it pretty much all individuals?
That's a great question. They do, but we don't have like a marriage specific offering, but we have couples that come all the time. Some are from Crew or other ministry organizations and contexts, people that serve together in their roles. Those are the ones. And then, of course, out at the ranch, when people come out here, it's often for a sabbatical, a getaway of some focused soul care time. And those are often more of a couple event. Yeah.
That's great. I would do some work with the Impact Foundation, and they really emphasize taking a day with the Lord during the year and, help to kind of make that possible, which I think is really generous, because if we don't put it on the schedule, if we don't plan on it, it doesn't happen. And we all pray, and we know it's our most important thing, our love for the Lord, but sometimes we are the last person that we're taking care of as we're taking care of everything else.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Wow. So we're those little handrails on the mountain.
So this year now, as you're going forward in 2026, you're looking at this, the Lead Well Rhythms is a subscription offering. And what else are you hoping for in growth for your company, or maybe even not even growing, just staying, where you're at? Like, let me ask you this: how would you feel at the end of the year if we then, talked again next year?
Yes, I love it. I hope I do. I want to be your annual first podcast of the day or of the month or of the year. Actually, we just had a team meeting in Hawaii and did a lot of strategic work, which drew from a methodology called StratOps that some people might be familiar with. And it really focuses heavily on gaining perspective on your organization and your different offerings and your audience and all that prior to making strategy decisions. And it was incredibly helpful. And we came to some conclusions that had been hovering, but we were able to make more clear decisions and have, I believe, more commitment. And one of them has to do with sort of the gravitational pull of our work. So for these I've only been gone from Glue for about 3.5 years, the 5 years since the pandemic, but it has been initially just me responsive to invitations that came from different organizations that wanted help and somebody else that wanted this. And I love serving in that way. But we are feeling that the gravitational pull is shifting toward the things that we're building, the conversations that we're hosting, the events that we would be gathering instead of only going out to other people's events. And so stay tuned, Kim, but we may have a podcast. It'll probably be launched very soon from the first of the year, and very likely doing an event sometime in the spring of 26. And just saying, like, is it time for us to host this conversation? And one of the other things that this does, I was just meeting with another leader earlier today, and she said, Mindy, the other thing this will do is it kind of centers the conversation rather than you as the spokesperson. And by doing that, it allows the rest of your team to show up in different ways. It allows other thought leaders to show up in this conversation. And you're really helping give lift to the conversation. And that's a new gear for us. So God willing, to answer your question.
I love that.
A year from now, those two things will have, it'll be an experiment. We'll learn. It won't all be perfect the first time out. But my hope is that we will see the fruit of this strategy meeting that we had just last week.
Oh, well, I'm sure you will. Speaking of podcasts, I was at a conference recently that was all about media and film. And one of the speakers said that podcasts right now are even more important than film out there because it's uninterrupted, time, 40 minutes, 45 minutes with the listener. I mean, maybe you've got a couple ads in there, but when else do you get somebody's attention where you can have these conversations or, like you could be a Joe Rogan and talk for 3 hours, but it's really such a great medium of you're going to have so much great content in your library for your soul care podcast that will be such a great reference point too for new people that join in. They can just go back and, listen to these 4 episodes. On Generous Girl last year, what we did was we structured it where we had 4, because I had a lot of people with my work with Impact Foundation who they understand charitable giving. You're putting your money in a donor advised fund and you're giving it away to your church or Crew or NAVs or the variety of nonprofits. Most people understand that. But to think of those same dollars being able to be invested in a for-profit company, it's often really confusing.
I just love that.
I know, me too. Because it feels like you're able to give people a chance with these for-profit companies that have redemptive purposes. So when I get people's questions, I just thought I need to have a series in the podcast that explains impact investing. So I did 4 people. I did Dana Wichterman, who wrote the book Stewards Not Owners, great book. And then Samantha Couch, she was with Faith Driven Investor at the time. And then we had Catherine Brainerd, who is now,
I know her.
Yep, she's at Oxford getting her MBA. But she helped to facilitate what we call the table, which is an gathering like a cohort of 20 women or co-ed where you're investing 10,000 of charitable capital. And it's kind of like a Shark Tank where you're listening to these different companies pitch you on how do you want to invest your money in this collective giving circle. And then we had a final guest who was Rachel McDonough she's a certified financial planner and just looks at how your resources are invested and are we doing screening or negative screening, positive, all the things. So I love that I can send people the links to those 4 episodes.
That's awesome.
And then after that, we did a series on 4 creatives and how they're living a generous life. And we did a Hollywood director and we did a writer and we did a singer and we did a woman who started her marketing agency called Troops and Allies in Nashville. And it's really her audience is women because she represents a lot of these faith forward films like I Can Only Imagine 2 will be coming out. And she wants to influence the woman who then brings the family to the theater. And so I love podcasts because you get to spotlight the guest, you get to spotlight whatever topic it is, that you're trying to like educate, empower, equip people to learn more about. And yeah, it's just super incredible.
Kim, you're my hero. You're always my role model. I love that in so many areas. But yes, you've stewarded this conversation so well. And it's so beautiful to see it now. Third season, fourth season, did we figure it out?
And we're starting out the number 4 already.
Come on. Well done.
Thank you. Well, right back at you. For the listener, Mindy and I had the chance to work together for a number of years at a company in Boulder named Glue. And it was really a fun time. So enjoyed those days. Yes.
Always happy to lock arms with you, my dear.
Well, right back at you. So, okay. So as we just think about the listener and each of us, here we are in January, they're going to go to your website, possibly take the assessment, maybe sign up for your Lead Well Rhythms, and any other like really practical step that you would say, if nothing else this year of 2026 for your soul, just don't forget this. Remember to do this.
Yeah. It's January, guys. Pull out a journal. Pull out a scrap piece of paper if that's all you got. It doesn't matter, but it does matter that you write things down. And can you give at least 10 minutes to thinking about, I know it's January. Everybody's thinking, what do I want my life to be like? But I want you to think about your soul's health. Like, what do you want that to be like? What do you want your life with God to be like? Not in some rigid, like mechanical way, but like, what do you want it to feel like? What do you want it to sound like? What do you want it to smell like? What do you want your pace of life, for example, to feel like? Do you want it to be the same as it was in 2025? Or I know you and I haven't talked about this yet, Kim, but I'm feeling a very strong challenge/invitation/challenge to drop my pace by 2/3.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, what does that even mean? And I'm still wrestling with that. But that's my current, like, I got quiet enough to feel like I thought I heard that from God. And I'm like, all right, well, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. What is a 2/3 reduction in my pace look like? But friends, what does it look like for you? What do you want your pace to feel like? What do you want your experience of your family to be like? Mm-hmm. What do you want your experience of friendship to be like? I'm presuming many of you have already been spending the last, 10 to 15 days possibly doom scrolling or watching a bunch of Instagram influencers or who knows what about how to eat more protein. By all means, eat more protein. But for sure, spend 10 minutes, pull out a piece of paper. What do you want your soul to feel like this year?
Good.
And as it goes with your soul, so it will go with your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so glad we had you to kick off the season. Thank you, Mindy, for being
honored to be with you.
Okay, so before we wrap up, we always like to hear favorite Bible verse, book you're reading, and a recent bargain.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's start with a bargain. I haven't pushed purchase yet, but I'm debating between two. And then every time I go, my cart has more things in it. But there's a website that I think has the best bargains, and it's called Steep and Cheap. Now, steep and deep in Colorado is what you describe an ideal snow condition for skiing or snowboarding. So this is a bit of a riff off of Steep and Deep.
It's clever.
And this is called Steep and Cheap. And they pull from the best brands. Like, you usually cannot get Patagonia at a lower price. You can get Patagonia, Marmot, North Face. I got this there. There we go. I am wearing one of my Steep and Cheap. This is like such a cute little thing that I got it like 60% off. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my price range right there. So that's my bargain. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I forgot that's where I got this.
You can see
I got this like a month ago.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Bible verse has become almost like our anthem for the Lead Well Rhythms. And let me do the book next, and I'll end by reading the Bible verse because I want to read it over everybody, like as a prayer.
I love that.
The book I heard of through something, you follow like one thing that leads to another thing, is a book by a theologian named Miroslav Volf, Volf. And he is a brilliant man I believe he's at Yale. And I've read other things by him that are very thought-provoking and challenging. One was, I think, called Exclusion and Embrace. And he deals with these issues. This book, the title alone gives you pause, is called The Cost of Ambition: How Striving to Be Better Than Others Makes Us Worse. I had been thinking before I bought the book about how often it's easy to struggle. Our whole world tempts us to compare constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And a comparison between two people, how many Instagram followers you have, what color your hair is, like it could be anything, is a neutral thing. It's a difference. There's nothing, we live in a world of differences. But what sneaks into differences is superiority.
Mm.
And he takes a unflinching look at how superiority is killing us.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim, you and I both have been in circles long enough. We know how this shows up and we know how it kills community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I found it very, very helpful. He's separating the striving for excellence, which we should all always do. But it's the edge of superiority that he brings it all the way back to the fall. And it is our sort of original sin, is the desire to be better than or more than, in that case, to be like God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's my book recommendation. I literally just finished it.
Because I just heard Francis Chan's podcast that he talked about, coveting, and you can covet not only, someone's house or car, but their career, or you can look at it and think, okay, well, they're there. Well, he said, then I'm going to be better here. And it just goes all the way back to the fall. But it's so insidious. And you're right. That sounds very insightful, that book.
I would say if anybody's listening and you're like looking for a book that takes a fresh look at an old topic, I found it to be helpful. It's thick. It's written by a Yale theologian. So I'm not going to apologize for that. But loving God with your mind is an important thing to do, ladies and men, whoever's listening. And the cost of ambition, I think, we almost overly prioritize ambition. It's like the ultimate American virtue.
You're a 3, you're an achiever on the Enneagram. Okay. That's just who
and
you are.
We're constantly comparing to everyone else. And it's exhausting. What if we could just let go of that and not even strive to be better in our service? Like, no, let's just stop the striving to be better. Let's just be who we are to the best of our ability, to the glory of God. But this is the only way humility actually emerges.
And there's no one like Mindy Caliguire. There's no one like me. There's no one like the Jane Smith over here, because everyone's like their experiences, the DNA, that all the things are so unique that we hurt ourselves by comparing.
We do. So how striving to be better than others makes us worse. That's a great title. All right.
All right. In closing, you're going to read our
Bible passage. This is from Colossians 1. And this is borrowing from one of Paul's prayers in a microscopic print here. This is from the Message paraphrase. So whoever's listening, this is Paul's word to the Colossians, but I hope you can hear this as a prayer for you as you start this new year. Be assured, our friends, that from the first day we heard of you, we haven't stopped praying for you, asking God to give you wise minds and spirits attuned to his will, and so acquire a thorough understanding of the ways in which God works. We pray you'll live well for the Master, making him proud of you as you work hard in his vineyard. As you learn more and more how God works, you will learn how to do your work. That's a big idea. We pray that you'll have the strength to stick it out over the long haul. Friends, that's my prayer for you today. That you'll have strength to stick it out over the long haul. Not the grim strength of gritting your teeth, but the glory strength God gives. It is strength that endures the unendurable and spills over into joy. thanking the Father who makes us strong enough to take part in everything bright and beautiful that He has for us. So may that be your prayer for 2026, my friends, and for you too, Kim. I love you.
Thank you, friend. I love you too. What a great kickoff. Have a beautiful day, and thanks for being here.
Delighted. Talk soon.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Generous Girl podcast. We're so glad that you're here. And if you know of someone that you think needs to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out to us. New episodes are released every other week, and you can follow us on YouTube and on all platforms. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.